This video is about the origins of modern Italians, the people of the peninsula of Italy and the island of Sicily. If you remember, my last video was on ancient Roman DNA. The reason I'm now making this video after it on the origins of Italians is because the ancient Roman DNA, or at least if my favorite theory about it is true, says something significant about the origins of Italians. And so I feel the need to clarify exactly what it says by making a whole video about it. What it says is that modern Italians have a significant amount of ancestry from the ancient Greek colonies. To explain in more detail what I mean, so there were these Greek colonies which had existed along the Mediterranean Sea coasts. In 300 to 200 BC, a city-state in Italy, Rome, conquered these colonies and absorbed them into the Roman Empire. And looking at the ancient Roman DNA, my interpretation, my theory, as I explained in my last video, is that then people from these Greek colonies, specifically the ones which existed along the southern coast of Italy and in Sicily, then flooded into Rome and across the Italian peninsula. And I think looking at modern Italian DNA, we can see that modern Italians still have significant ancestry from these ancient Greek colony quote-unquote immigrants. Also, I want to make clear, as I described in my last video, that these Greek colony immigrants were not 100% Greek like you would expect. They had mixed Southern European and Middle Eastern ancestry. Their Southern European ancestry mainly came from Greece, and their Middle Eastern ancestry mainly came from the Phoenicians, who came from the Levant region, and then some of the other ancestry came from the region of Anatolia. For short, I call this cocktail of Greek, Phoenician / Levante, Anatolian ancestry, Eastern Mediterranean, because all those countries come from along the eastern part of the Mediterranean Sea. The rest of Italians' ancestry, as you would expect, comes from the people who were already living in mainland Italy before these Eastern Mediterranean Greek colony immigrants came in Roman times. The pre-Roman people of Italy, the old populations there, were basically, you can say, Southwestern European. By that I mean they're similar to neighboring populations in Southwestern Europe near Italy. So I know everything I've said in this video so far is a bit confusing, so here's a more simple way to describe Italians' ancestral makeup. That is to say that they're part Southwestern European and part Eastern Mediterranean. The Southwestern European stuff comes from the ancient pre-Roman populations of Italy, and the Eastern Mediterranean stuff comes from the Greek colonies, which were established in southern Italy in 800 BC, and whose people flooded across Italy in Roman times. And I can demonstrate this dual origin in a cool way using something called a PCA plot I made with the G25 PCA. This plot has European and Middle Eastern DNA samples in it, and where Italians plot on this PCA shows that they're intermediate between Southwestern Europe and Eastern Mediterranean populations. So in blue on the top are European samples, on green on the bottom are Middle Eastern samples, and the orange line in the middle are Italian samples, which you can already see are intermediate between them. So Southwestern European samples, including ancient and modern samples from Spain and southern France and Italy, plot on the bottom left part of the European cline. And I have them marked out in black letters. You can see pre-Roman Italy is highlighted there. But modern Italy in orange pulls away from Southwestern Europe in a downward direction. And so if I drag down and see where they're pulling, you see Eastern Mediterranean populations in that direction. So it's very clear that Italy pulls away from neighboring and ancient populations in Southwestern Europe towards the Eastern Mediterranean with ancient Greece and the Middle East. So it's pretty clear looking at this PCA, which is a simple and direct way to show genetic variation, that modern Italians aren't exactly a Southwestern European population because they don't cluster with Spain and southern France. They're best described as an intermediate between Southwestern Europe and the Eastern Mediterranean. So now that I've given you that PCA plot to demonstrate how Italians are, to visually demonstrate how Italians are mixed Southwestern European, Eastern Mediterranean, I want to give you a more straightforward demonstration of this with percentages. So I created these maps showing the exact percentages of Greek colony ancestry or Eastern Mediterranean and pre-Roman mainland Italy ancestry or Southwestern European ancestry in Italy. So first, let's look at the map I made showing the distribution of Greek colony ancestry in Italy. You can see that it peaks in southern Italy at about 60 to 70%, and then it gradually gets lower the further north you go. It drops to 40% in central Italy near where Rome is. It drops to 28% in Tuscany and north central Italy, and it further drops to under 20% in most of northern Italy. The reason why it peaks in southern Italy and gradually gets lower the further north you go is because southern Italy is actually where the Greek colonies were located in the first millennium BC, and for where in Roman times the people from those colonies then spread throughout the Italian peninsula. Now, just to be clear and honest, I did not get these results with actual ancient DNA from the Greek colonies. I used ancient DNA samples from Imperial Rome to measure these percentages from samples that I think were 100% from the Greek colonies. Now let's look at the map of pre-Roman Italian ancestry in Italy, which is the other side of their ancestry. It comes from the older indigenous populations of mainland Italy who lived there before the Greek colony immigrants showed up in Roman times. You can see that it follows the opposite trend of Greek colony ancestry. It's highest in the north and gets lower the further south you go. It's lowest in southern Italy at about 1/3, 33 to 35%, goes up to 60% in central Italy, and peaks in the Lombardy province in northern Italy at 85%. But you can also see it isn't exactly super high at the northern tips of Italy, because at the border provinces there's recent French and Slovenian admixture and possibly also Germanic admixture. So although northern Italy has low Greek colony ancestry, it isn't exactly a refuge of pre-Roman Italy, as they do have recent admixture from mainland Europe. Only parts of it, specifically the province of Lombardy, can really be considered a true refuge of pre-Roman populations of Italy. That's it for this video. In my next video, I'm going to describe how the population makeup of France and Spain were also changed in the days of the Roman Empire, this time by immigrants from Italy.